This is the Oz report for April 13th, 2024. And let's start, as usual, with the Plex and Plex adjacent items. Plex is still very expensive. It's trading 9% over 52-week average, but it's 1% lower than last week. We had points in time this week where it was up, where it was down, so it's still quite volatile. However, we don't have a lot of large sales going on anymore, not in the Real Money store and not in the New Eden store. So the price is due to stabilize in the next few weeks. If we look at skill injectors and skill extractors, those are both still rising. They have been rising in the past few weeks. They kind of move hand in hand because it's part of the skill farming equation, which, by the way, if we're looking at it here, is right now 663 million profit in skill farming per account per month. That is higher than it has been, just because Plex prices have come down a little bit, and also because large skill injector prices are going up. Skill extractors continue to be rising, and so if you're one of the very, very few that are still holding on to very cheap skill extractors from the last large sales that we had, then I do still think it's a good time to sell. I mean, you don't want to fall for that next big sale that is coming, which, if knowing CCP at some point, that will happen again because the last sales were just, too successful. I don't think we're going to see another 2-for-1 sale. I might be wrong, but I don't think we will. But we might still see a 15-20% skill extractor sale sometime in the future. I wouldn't be surprised if CCP did that. It has worked too well. Hypercores are not recovering. Hypercores, basically unchanged. They've been cheaper than last week, trading at 63% of 52-week average. Hypercore had a massive 2-to-1 sale, and that volume that was traded in hypercores was just so much more than compared to the average daily trade volume that it's going to take a long time to recover. So those that are very bold are buying in big time now. It's a fairly large market, not compared to Plex and injectors, but compared to other things in EVE Online. So in terms of single item markets, it's fairly large. 23 billion traded a day. So if you're feeling like taking that gamble, then invest big in hypercores now. They will probably recover eventually, just like we've seen with skill extractors in the past. Even though I don't like the hypernet, a lot of people do, and so there will be demand for them, but expect this to take a long time because we had just such a huge multiple of daily trade volumes being traded during the sale period. Something that is very, very surprising is the cerebral accelerators, that they are rising again. This is mostly Master at Arms cerebral accelerators. If we look at their trajectory in game, we're seeing that they are rising again. Yeah, we had remember, the New Eden store now has superior and cheaper cerebral accelerators for sales. So we don't expect Master at Arms cerebral accelerators to actually increase in value again. Yet they do, and they have, right? So this was in mid-March. They made the announcement that, or they made these new cerebral accelerators available. So the market crashed for Master at Arms cerebral accelerators. We expected that correction to stay. However, it is rising slowly again, and we're now back to very good pricing of 85 million. And I myself, I'm still liquidating these as fast as I can, and people are buying them every day. I'm selling billions of these every single day, and that is just a huge surprise. So just for those of you that are listening to me, public service announcement: if you just buy Plex and then buy your cerebral accelerators in the New Eden store, you're getting a 20 to 30% discount on skill points, and they last longer. And so they are all around just the better deal, more convenient, cheaper, better. All right. So No idea who those people are that are buying those master arm cerebral accelerators, but people listen to me. At least those of you in our community don't make the wrong decisions. All right. Even though I am profiting from it because somebody's paying high prices to me. All right, that's it. Let's go into some specific items. All right. Let's look at ICE products overall. So ICE products are overall up 5%, and fuel blocks are up 16%. So we're seeing a lot of demand in the market for ICE products that, you know, could be, yes, we have a lot of reactions going on. Production is at a high point over the last compared to the last 5 years. So a lot of production going on, but also a lot of troop movements. So we have a lot of capitals using up isotopes, and so there's just generally a high demand for ICE in game, and don't expect that to last. I think it's not a super rare good. People can go and mine it. People have stockpiles, and so this is a temporary shortage. So go and sell your ICE if you or your isotopes or your fuel blocks if you have them now, because prices will likely correct themselves very soon. Drone components, surprisingly, drone components are up another 5%. They were already up 50-60% last week, and that's because of the event that is going on in Viken. I think it's the system name. You can hand these in for blueprints of new MTUs and some other stuff. It's an in-game event. If you're interested in it, go look it up in the news, in the Eve news. But so this is a temporary virtual increase in demand for drone components. I don't know. Possibly for the long run, if they're going to, I don't know how long they're going to draw this out, but certainly this is a very, very, very good time to sell your rogue drone components. If you have stockpiles of them, these are not going to stay up there in the long run. This is very, very expensive. Fortizar prices. So interestingly enough, the Fortizar, which is a very large structure, is almost sold out in JITA, but it's also rising in price quite significantly. And interestingly enough, if we look at the production price, the production price of the Fortizar, which is the dark blue line here, that hasn't changed. So it's not going up. But the demand has, and the price has, just because, you know, there's just not dozens of these out there at all times, because these are quite expensive, you know, 12 billion a pop right now. These are made up almost exclusively out of PI goods. Right. So if you break them down, what goes into them, you know, it's a lot of broadcast nodes, for example. It's a lot of wetware mainframe, for example, and these are all things that are at a very, very cheap point right now because PI goods overall have been getting a lot cheaper due to a buff or nerf, however you look at it, in last fall. And so if you would expect these Fortizar supplies to be restocked, right, because the supply is just very low, then one good investment right now could be to invest into the PI goods that go into Fortizars. They are cheap anyway, so the risk is not very high right now, but specifically broadcast nodes, wetware mainframe, and sterile conduits, I think, are the three that make up a big chunk. I think about 30% of the bill of material of a Fortizar. So interesting. Athenors we had last week spiking, and now we have Fortizars coming up. I don't know if this has to do with the wormhole war or with insurgencies, but either way, the demand for these structures is high. The next item I want to talk about is power conduits. So power conduits is one of those salvage goods that that goes into rigs. So tier 2 rigs for ships and tier 2 rigs for structures, and they're just very cheap right now and pretty much gone. So 1.4 on the buy side. Let's just see, the 1.4 on the buy side is not a huge price compared to the last 52 weeks. And on the other hand, the supply is basically gone. So there's almost nothing out here. There's some out here at very high prices, but almost none left. So there's going to be some sort of play here with power conduits. Either people are stockpiling them, buying out the markets, or some large scale producers have bought out some of the available stockpiles in Jeddah. But if we look at, for example, I'm pulling it up here on the other monitor. If you look at the supply and demand for power conduits, you can see that there's just right now none left, but that has happened in the past as well. So this is not something that never happens. It seems that buyers are just buying in bulk of these and then going out and producing rigs out of them. So might be a good time to make a move here in terms of investment. So lots of things going on. Then another thing that is running low in supply is isogen. So let's have a look here at isogen. And you can see here that the isogen supply has almost halved since the beginning of March. So, you know, isogen prices have been historically dropping lately because more sources of isogen were introduced last year around this time. But this has now stabilized pretty much, and supplies are running low. So this is not a turnaround. I expect in the long term, I still expect isogen prices to fall. I've been saying that almost every week for the last year. So don't go out and invest in large stockpiles of isogen. It's just interesting that right now stockpiles are just very, very low and demand seems to be high. This could have a short-term impact on especially battleships, because a lot of battleships rely heavily on a supply of isogen, and some of them are their bill of material is 50% isogen, and so their price is very much tied to isogen. If we see rising prices in the long run, then expect battleship prices to go up as well. The last item I want to mention is 0-point field manipulators. We've been talking about them recently more and more because they are the main component for tier 2 Triglavian ships, right? And so, for example, an Ikatursa, for example, or a Nurgle, yeah, and they have all been ever since CCP nerfed Triglavian weapons a little bit. The prices have been falling rapidly. Volume is up a little bit as well, but prices have been falling much, much harder than I would expect. So right now, the 0-point field manipulators on the buy side, 170,000. That is super low, and I don't think the nerfs. Would warrant a drop like that. So this is certainly a combination of the nerves and maybe people panic selling a little bit, and then maybe also there being a little bit of an oversupply. If we look at the volumes in game, you can just see that when this nerf happened, which was like in the end of February, so it was around here, you can see that the supply in the market just skyrocketed, so almost doubled the supply in Jeddah. And since then it has come down a little bit, but it's still it's at that high point that it was before the nerf happened. And so I don't really quite think that this is warranted, and so right now I think it's probably a good time to stockpile these, whether it is for investment or whether it is to build tier 2 ships. So yeah, very interesting right now, the 0-point field manipulators. Okay, let me just finish the Oz report for this week. We'll catch you guys next week, and we'll return to the regular